Welcome to the Bariatric Nutrition Coach podcast, where we empower you with weight loss surgery, nutrition knowledge, mindset advice, and inspiration so you succeed in your weight and health journey. I'm your host, Jane Stoltz, and I am a bariatric dietitian who has helped over 1,300 people on their weight loss surgery journeys. I'm also a solo mum, lover of long walks while listening to podcasts, partial to a glass of wine, and the ocean is my happy place. Join me as I dive deep into bariatric nutrition and lifestyle topics and deliver them to you in bite-sized, palatable episodes every Monday. Now let's go. So welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Bariatric Nutrition Coach podcast. And I have a wonderful guest today, the lovely Jacque, and I'm going to share a little bit about how we met before I ask Jacque to introduce herself. And then we're going to have, I think, a chat that many people are going to relate to parts of her story and find of great value. One of the reasons I do my podcast is for education, to ensure people get really good education about nutrition post weight loss surgery. But also another objective I have is for more bariatric voices to have a space to be shared across the world, because bariatric surgery and the journey post-bariatric surgery can be so isolating. And so many people can feel really alone. Jackie's waiting very patiently. Now, how we met on Instagram. And Jacque was so lovely and shared in her stories and tagged me talking about mentioning on my podcast. And it was episode 56, Weight Loss Surgery, Eating Behaviors to Role Model for Kids. And I said, thank you so much. And we started chatting. And I said, I'd love to hear more about you, because Jackie's got a wonderful Instagram. She's sharing her journey and she's really inspirational. And so we started chatting, and then the way Jacque came back and really shared her journey from childhood, I just went, would you like to be on my podcast? And she said, yes. And so Jacque, that's how we got here, isn't it? Jacque, welcome. I would love you to share whatever you're happy to share, who you are, anything. Introduce yourself. That'd be great.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Jacque. I had bariatric surgery in October of 2023, and it was a long journey to get to there. I have been overweight most of my life. I remember being an overweight child and kind of going through my whole life with struggling yo-yo dieting until I found bariatric surgery. And I found you on Apple Podcast, and I started listening before my surgery. So I feel like it really got me ready for it. I listened during and I still listen after. And so I've just enjoyed you so much. And when you asked me to be on, I was so excited.
Thank you. I talk with my clients a bit about social media, and we've connected in Instagram, and there can be some not positive sides, but there's so many wonderful sides, because you're on the other side of the world and we have connected and we're getting to know each other. And I think that's really wonderful. So wonderful. Now, when you did share in Instagram about your journey, what I really loved is you started right back at childhood, because often people will say, oh, okay, I've been struggling with my weight for a long time. And it's really in that last period. And that's fine. That's what people have shared. But it's really lovely to go right back. And you went right back to what it was like from the early days. And so many people, when to my clients, we go back to what all the things that has shaped them in their thoughts around their body and relationship with food and where it started. And you mentioned then you worked from childhood, the challenge of being overweight was there. And I'd love you to take us back there and talk more about that.
Yeah. So I don't really have memory of not being overweight. I remember when I noticed that I was gaining weight as a child, and I remember spending summers with someone who was taking care of me, and they just made the best food, and I let myself indulge at my house. My mom was always kind of struggling too with her diets, but she always made sure we never had soda in the house. We didn't have sweets. We didn't have that food around, which can be good and beneficial. But for me as a child, when I did see that soda or I did see that cinnamon toast, instead of having one piece, learning at a young age, listen to your body when you're full, I would have 3 or 4 pieces. I would have not one soda. I was so excited to have that soda. I would have as many as I could stomach. And I didn't learn moderation because I never had foods in my life at a young age. And so when I was able to get my hands on it, I definitely indulged. And I just remember always being on kind of a diet. I mean, I remember going to curves with my mom at a very young age. I remember doing Weight Watchers, and I always remember family telling me what a beautiful face I had and never anything else. "Oh, you have such a beautiful face. If you slimmed down a little, or maybe if you were a little more active." And it was never a beautiful person. It was never a whole. It was, "What a beautiful face," because I've always had a more slender face, and that's always stuck with me throughout my whole life. And so just being in the 90s, there were so many. I remember watching TV and seeing so many Lindsay Lohan, Paris Hilton, where the skinny, skinny, skinny was in. And so I remember always thinking, well, maybe I could do that or go for that sport once I get there. I never let myself enjoy anything being who I was. It was always, if I lose 10 pounds, if I lose 20 pounds, then I'll get there. And I think that stemmed from, you have a pretty face, you are a beautiful person. And so my view in life was, once I get there to my goal weight, then I'll be happy, or then I'll try out for that sport, or then I'll be able to do this. And that's just how my whole childhood aspect was. And looking at myself, I'm beautiful, but once I get there, I'll be better.
And just also how you are is just fine. How you are. And that is what you're talking is about, is that feeds into that and that motivation and kind of keeps that dieting cycle in our lives going. And many people do. I was just kind of wanting to reflect there, Jackie, is many people bring that even into their weight loss surgery journey. And yeah, well, when you get there, life will be better. You'll be happier. This
Yeah.
will be better and that will be better. And part of what can be really hard about the bariatric journey, because it's such a significant, impactful journey in people's lives, is when they do lose weight, they don't actually always feel happier and they don't always have the better relationships or the things that they thought would be, yeah. So that what you're talking is really common and that feeds into that dieting and how you are is not good enough.
Yeah.
And I talk a lot about this with my clients is when we are actually in that place of compassion, self-care, it's actually easier to look after yourself. It's easier to do the healthier choices as to I'm not good enough and in that negative space. So thank you so much. So it started overweight as childhood. It really led into dieting. What did late teens into your 20s look like?
So, like I said, I always struggled. I was always yo yo dieting. And how I thought was healthy, but was very unhealthy, I would restrict. And so I would lose 50, 60 pounds, but it was restricting. It was no carbs at all, no sugars, very, very, very green leaf. I didn't focus on protein because I didn't know that. It was leaves and vegetables, which are amazing. I enjoy them, but I wouldn't allow myself anything else. And I was doing really good with my weight, but restricting. And then I got pregnant and I allowed myself to indulge because I was eating for two. And I ate everything that I restricted myself for a couple years. I indulged in carbs, in Thai food, and I never learned moderation, which eventually I do once I had my bariatric surgery. But at that time, I did not. And so I gained about 80 pounds with my pregnancy, but I carried it very well. I remember even my doctors were shocked of how much I gained because I never looked like I gained that much. And I want to say I've always been very healthy. And I've always told myself, well, I'm overweight, yes, but I'm healthy. And I've had even doctors, well, let's take your blood pressure and all that stuff. And they've been shocked of how healthy I am on the inside. And so I've always had that in the back of my mind is, well, I'm overweight, but I'm healthy. And I never saw how overweight I became. I never saw how it actually did affect me physically and emotionally. I had my daughter and I continued to gain weight. I would say probably 30 or 40 pounds more because I was focusing on being a mom, and it was the best time. I wasn't looking in a mirror. I was focusing on this little human and giving her my all. And I did that for about 5 or 6 years of just focusing on her. And I wouldn't ever do anything differently. She was my life. But I did lose a lot of who I was. I finally looked in the mirror and I think I saw how much I neglected myself. And it finally hit me when, and I have this on my Instagram, she wanted to buy a trampoline. So I saved up my money and I'm a solo parent. We bought her a trampoline. I bought her a trampoline and she wanted me to jump on it with her. And I panicked and I said, "Oh no, mommy's knees hurt. I can't jump on it." But inside, I was afraid that I was too heavy to jump on it with her. And I noticed slowly how much I was sitting on the sidelines with her instead of enjoying her being in the moment. And it was because of my weight. So even though technically I was healthy, I wasn't living my life to its fullest and how I should be with my daughter and just in general. And so I had heard about bariatric surgery a while ago. A friend of mine from high school had it, and a mutual friend pointed out, "Oh, did you see she had that?" And it was like, "Good for her, but I don't need that. I can lose it the right way." And that was my train of thought. And finally I realized the right way, there is no right way. My way wasn't working for me. And so I looked into it and I had to go and find a doctor. I didn't have my own personal doctor at the time, a primary doctor, excuse me. I remember meeting with them and kind of holding back, but I was so eager. And finally, at the end of our consultation, they said, "Well, is there anything you want to ask? Is there anything you want to go over?" And I thought, well, it's now or who knows when I'm going to see them next. I said, "Well, I'm interested in looking into bariatric surgery." And they said, "Well, I think you would be a great person for that." And so they kind of led me in the right way. And I went through my steps. I think we talked about here in California, you have a lot of steps you have to check off. And I finally got there and here I am today. And it's one of the best decisions that I've made for myself.
First, so many things pop when you're talking, then were popping up to me to go, oh, yes, yes. And I was like, biting my tongue. One, isn't it wonderful that your primary care provider was so open, like accepting? Because I've had stories over the years of even though people are healthcare professionals, people bring their own point into their care and not everyone gets that reaction from their primary care provider. So I'm so happy you did and you had that acceptance and they helped you. The other thing that really popped up that I think, or you mentioned that I think many women, many mums will relate to is that losing yourself. And I know what that feels like. And we've bonded also over being solo parents. And the first couple of years, particularly, like I was just, my hair was sticking up. I was kind of, I call it, I was cross-eyed. I was so exhausted. My little, you put everything into their children, like, and you'll lose yourself. And because there's only so much energy you've got. And so part of also what I do with my clients is we talk about putting yourself on the list. And women aren't very good generally at self-care. And so it's around building that in. Yes, you want to care and have family to care for, but also that you're important as well. And if you're well, you're also more able to be a better parent. I think, Jackie, your wife having surgery, of that really wanting to be an involved parent and there and that experiences is really wonderful. So you spoke to your primary care provider. What was the time between maybe speaking to them and then having surgery? What was that timeline?
So I believe it was in January when I found my primary and spoke to her. I had a list of things that I had to do beforehand. I had to find a surgeon, which was fairly easy. I looked into a few people she put in my direction. I had to meet with a nutritionist and I had to have several meetings with them, and also a psychologist. And so it was a lot to do. I had my surgery in October, and they actually told
Yep.
me that was pretty fast for California area. And to me, it felt like forever. And beforehand, I had to lose, I think he gave me about 20 pounds to lose, which Doesn't seem like a lot, but if you were like me or are like me, yo-yo dieting, it was a lot because I would lose that 10 and be so excited for them January to October, and then I'd gain 5, and then I'd stress on that, and then I'd gain 10. And so I definitely I hit it right at 20, but it did take some time. And then also part of you, which you're not supposed to do, the nutritionist, but a part of you is like, will I ever be able to eat this again? Should I eat it now? Which you will. Maybe differently, maybe less, but you will. And so that was going through my head. I loved having wine and I really wanted to give that up once I had my surgery. You're supposed to for a little bit just to heal. I haven't had wine since or any alcohol. I went to Paso Robles and we enjoyed some wine for a little bit because in my head, I wanted to clean start. And so, again, yo yo dieting, that's how it went my whole life. So, you had to lose up to 20 pounds. Let me get back to the story. And I did that, met with my surgeon, and quite a few times. Like I said, you had to meet with a nutritionist. I think I had to have 5 or 6 meetings with her until they can check you
Mm.
off. And so quite a few steps that you have to go through before having the surgery.
Yeah. And yes, and I have lots of clients in the US, and I know that you've got to cover off a whole lot of things, jump through hoops, so to speak, to get there. And in some ways that can be good because you get that mental preparation time. I have heard that the average contemplation or period of thinking about it to actually having surgeries around January as an average 2 years. But maybe that's not the whole process. It's more that, okay, I could have it, actually deciding to have it. So wonderful. You also touched on a really good point of needing to lose, and that's a very common thing that some surgeons will want you to lose some weight pre-surgery. And that's helps you deliver and all of that. But that can be, yes, it can be very challenging because you're still in that pre-surgery, that diet mentality. So wonderful. You had your surgery and what were the early days like? Take us back to October, November last year.
So I had my surgery, and luckily for me, I didn't have too much pain after. I did a lot of research. I tried to read every book that I can find. I tried to listen to every podcast. And I've heard some people deal with pain after. I didn't deal with that, but I tried to walk as much as possible. Coming home, it was I had a few buyer's remorse moments, which I want to share because it's very normal. I was so used to every Friday, I'd go out with my parents and my daughter, and we'd go out to eat. We wouldn't eat crazy, but we would enjoy, whether that was a salad with skirt steak on it and a glass of wine, just thinking my normal routine. And it's in my head, I'm never going to do that again. Hormones are crazy. And I remember crying about food, which now it sounds so silly. But I remember just thinking, wow, I changed my body forever, which I did, and it hit me hard. And so I had a couple moments
Yeah.
of buyer's remorse within the first week. And another one was family went out to out of town, and I didn't
Mm.
go. I was still very fresh, and I wasn't ready to be around people and eating and drinking yet. So I said, no, thank you. And I was totally fine. And then I was just laying in bed and I had a moment of just a breakdown. But that was the first couple weeks. After that, I haven't had, and that was probably because I was on liquids. I had a liquid diet. So I was sitting there with my protein shake and my water, timing every 15 minutes, having 2 ounces or 1 ounce. And it was just emotional and very physical. Um, but after I would say a month, I got back to my normal routine. After a week, I was able to walk around the block and just being outside felt so good. And slowly I had to go from liquids to puree to soft foods. And so I was eager and excited for that next step. And I would look into what I was going to make pureed.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a fun process of what's next. What's my next step? Once I got over the first couple weeks, I think was the hardest.
Yeah. Look, it's so normal what you're talking to me about the emotion. When you mentioned, am I going to be able to have this again? And these things float around. You'll never be able to eat a burger again. You'll never be able to eat this, do this again. You'll never do have that again. So that is there. And it's like what some people call like the food funeral or like the Last Supper. And that little time leading up to surgery can be just eat, eat, eat. And that's a struggle. And that pre-op diet, pre-surgery can be really, really hard because yes, burns, we eat for a whole lot of reasons. Yes, to feed our body, but also for emotions. And it's an experience, like it's part of the rhythm of your week, like you said on that Friday night. And the
Mm.
fluid stage after is hard. At a top level, you cannot feel that hungry, but you can also be your cells are hungry. Your teeth aren't doing anything. You haven't got the flavors that you want. And yes, often going on a puree is very exciting because you start getting some food, but then there can be the emotion of a little bit. I've had a little bit and that's enough, but you still want more. And there, I call it a very much of a struggle with the emotions of the wanting food. And that's then also the tummy says that's enough. And it can take some time before that kind of all comes together. And I just wanted to talk about this because the emotional side of it is so real. And so
Mm.
it comes up where you probably may not have even expected it. And things come up and the emotions that come up. So thank you for sharing. But it's not just the good, it's the tough times in those early days. Of what have I done? Will I ever be able to eat normally again? Will I be able to go out with my family and have a meal? And all of that. So lovely. So you got onto normal food and you've been feeling good. So yeah, I'd love you to share from that stage would be wonderful.
Yeah. So I think my biggest thing has been mental, and getting onto normal food has been amazing. Trying to find new fun recipes and just preparing. Even now, I think I'm 9 months out. I have to really wrap my head around portions. I'll grab tons of chicken and then I end up having to freeze it, or because I don't still realize I'm not going to eat that much. And so trying to get my little lunches ready, my little dinners ready, and know how much to prepare is still a learning experience for me. But it's been so good. I've never felt healthier. I've never had more energy, and it just feels amazing to mindfully eat now. What's going to fuel me, what's going to feel good in my body, what's going to make me move forward. And that's something that I've kind of pushed on to my daughter is there's no bad foods. What is going to fuel our body? I could eat this right now, but I think if I have some chicken, it's really going to, some protein, it's really going to make me have energy. And then when we go outside and play, we're going to feel good. And that's just been the biggest change is now it's putting protein first and really fueling my body. And like I said, I've never had more energy. I'm able to wake up early and work out and exercise. I enjoy exercising, which I thought I would never say. I enjoy going on bike rides with my daughter and jumping on trampolines and running around with her now.
Yeah. So I was going to ask about the trampoline. Have you been on the trampoline? And so
I
that's
have. We've been on the trampoline, and it's a lot harder than it seems. It's fun, but we've definitely been on there and just enjoying life with her.
That's fantastic because you shared my episode about eating behaviors to role models for children. And that's kind of how we connected and something I'm really passionate about because it really feeds into your why, Jackie. And you shared your why and your why was so connected to your daughter. And that is a really powerful thing that's going to keep you going in the tough times, in the hard days, in the hard periods of really keeping in touch with why you decided to have your surgery, but also what you have now. It's lovely experiences with your children being able to move. And many people do it even a little bit later in life because they have grandchildren coming to their lives and they're going, oh, I want to be there for my grandchildren. So I'm glad that you jumped on the trampoline and very different jumping on a trampoline as an adult compared to a child. But no, that is so wonderful. So, how else has bariatric surgery impacted your life? So it's impacted your life and your experience. How else have you seen the benefits appear?
Definitely just the energy and also living life to its fullest. I feel like I'm not sitting on the sidelines anymore. I'm not watching other people live and living through them. I'm living my life and I'm out there living it. I mean, I feel like before I was on the sidelines, I was watching everyone and I was enjoying it, but I was sitting aside. And now I'm the main character in my story and I'm enjoying life and I'm out there running around and it's been such a blessing and it truly has saved my life. Just being able to, the simplest things I feel like people who don't struggle with weight or maybe haven't experienced before going to the movie theaters with my daughter when I was at my heaviest. I remember going online and booking our seats, and sometimes I would book the one next to me because I'd have to pull up that seat handle in order to fit. And I was so afraid if I didn't book that seat next to me, someone would sit there and I wouldn't be able to pull up the handle. Going to a restaurant, being afraid, what if we're sat at a booth and I can't fit into the booth? Going to the boardwalk, I can't ride on rides with my daughter. The simplest things that people don't realize, or maybe they do, and it's sitting on the sidelines, it's watching your child go on a roller coaster with their grandma or their aunt or their cousin because you can't go with them. And so since surgery, I've been able to do all that. I don't worry about the simplest things going out in public. I don't worry about if we go to the beach, am I going to be out of breath or am I not going to be able to walk that far? Are my knees going to hurt?
Yeah.
It's just now I'm living life.
Lovely. So have you fully caught up with what your new body size is? Because it can take, it's not body dysmorphia, it's just a normal process of you when you lose weight, you're losing weight quite quickly. You still see yourself as a certain size and look at a chair and think, I can't fit in there, but then you actually sit in there quite easily. And it can take time. I call it the catch up. And have you fully caught up or are you still not quite there yet?
I'm definitely not there yet. I still shock myself when I look back at pictures and on my Instagram, I like to do a before and after. And it's very beneficial for me because I'll look at pictures and I'm shocked of how far I've come because I feel good. I know I'm in a smaller size. I know I'm in smaller pants. I know it's easier to move, but you still mentally, I haven't gotten there yet. And so I've had a friend send me pictures. I asked, "Do you have a picture of me in a bathing suit?" Because I would never save that on my phone. If I saw one, I would delete it right away.
Sure.
And I said, I want to compare. And she sent me a couple, and I was shocked. I didn't recognize myself. And it was very interesting to look at what I was and then who I am today and still not knowing either of them because I didn't realize I was that heavy or unhealthy. And I still, when I look at myself today in a picture, I don't realize I'm that much smaller or that much healthier. And so it's a weird in between. My daughter, it kind of hit her probably a few months ago. Someone was complimenting me of they're like, "Oh, Jacqueline, you've lost so much weight." And my daughter, who sees me every day, looked at me and kind of looked at me up and down and said, "What, mom?" And she goes, "When I used to hug you, I'd hug you like this." And she goes, "Now I hug you like this." And I said, "Yeah, you do." And so it kind of hit her too, how far I've come. And that was an amazing feeling for me. And it just hit us both how far I've come and we've come together. So
Beautiful. Well, it's wonderful, like wonderful story. You share so much wonderful parts of your journey, your Instagram. And I really appreciate you coming on my podcast and sharing because I know that so many people are going to relate to different parts to the things you're talking about. So common, the challenges and that pre-surgery, post-surgery. So thank you so much, Jackie. I really appreciate it. And you are on Instagram. So I'd love you to share how can people find you if they want to reach out and say hello. Yeah, I'd love you to share that.
definitely, I am at bariatric_Jackie and it's JACQUE. So bariatric
Wonderful.
underscore Jackie.
Lovely. So thank you so much. And everyone that is listening, thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate you listening to my podcast. And I really look forward to being back in your ears next week. Bye for now. Bye, Jackie.
Bye. Thank you.